our viewers on Twitter following us and watching this live stream feed. And I got to say that they really hate it. My team hates it when I go off script. And right off the bat, I'm going to go a little bit off script. If you read my bio, I'm a field-generated officer. So from public order, critical incident, to detachment command, to all the frontline stuff that it is we love to do every single day. And present a career that has a wall of honor at almost every headquarters and police station that's out there, right? If you have that kind of commitment, that passion, commitment, and guts to go out there and choose on a daily basis to confront individuals who victimize others, if that's what you can do, and it's not easy, right? Not easy to get up every day and push harder, have the guts and dig a little bit deeper and go out there and try your best. If you are able to do that, you're going to be a good cop. So when I came into recruiting, I thought to myself, how do I transition? How do I transition and do the best I can to recruit that type of an officer or that type of an individual into the organization? And I'm glad they afforded me the opportunity to step into this role, I got to say. It's with absolute pleasure that I took on the challenge. And I got to say, our Commissioner Hawks, is extremely progressive and truly believes in letting his people free. Free to make a difference, to have an impact if you can, free to reinvest in technology with the ultimate goal of really focusing on enhancing our human resources, right? How do we build and sustain and enhance an effective and healthy workforce? And that is really the primary concern of the OPP. I'll tell you a little bit about ourselves, and I'll get into our virtual recruitment strategy in a bit, and rest assured, this hopefully by the end of this, we can share just a couple little examples of some strategies that we've used that might help you in terms of recruitment initiatives within policing. And I think if we can kind of tie this all in together and maybe collectively and collaboratively work on police recruiting, general improved interest in policing, I think that would help us all organizationally, and it would span international borders for sure. So a little bit about the OPP, if you don't know us. That's Ontario. That's about where we are in the world. It's about 3 Frances can fit in Ontario. I've had the great fortune of working on the Manitoba border, which in your speak would be somewhere north of North Dakota, all the way out to upstate New York side on the Hawkesbury side, 23 hours to drive across, 13.6 million people. The OPP are responsible for 323 different municipalities within the 5 regions and 1 division that we police. We have 6,200 police officers. We have 3,100 civilians, 800 auxiliary members, so we're right around the 9,300 people mark. It's really funny because I was once on a conference down in South Carolina back in my interdiction days, and I'm sitting at the conference, and there was 2 of us there, and one of the local deputies said, we're in partnership with the local police services and whatnot, but we don't actually touch a lot of them. So recruiting diverse candidates and people with diverse skill sets isn't always the easiest thing to do for our organization, right? And I'm going to kind of get into some strategies about how and why we do that later on. Retirements, and I can't go another slide without telling you why it was so important that we reinvest people, resources, and technology into uniform recruitment for the Ontario Provincial Police. The reason why we got to do that is in November, I have 650 members that are eligible for retirement. I can go up to about 1,000 in the next 18 months. I can't fill the seats fast enough, and our organization has a steadfast resolve to not decrease the quality of applicant for quantity. We will maintain our quality, we will maintain the highest of standards, but we have to recruit better, we have to recruit differently, and we have to recruit diversity. And that has to be our primary goal in everything that we do. And what is the definition of diversity? Right? We sat down as a team and we thought to ourselves, how do we define diversity? And what does that mean? What does it mean when you span 323 different communities, 13.6 million people, plus all the visitors in a country that takes 23 hours to drive, or a province that takes 23 hours to drive across? How do you define diversity, and what does diversity mean? What does diversity mean in terms of growing, building, and changing an organization? How do you recruit people with diverse skill sets, cultural, social, people from different areas, geography, right? How do we focus on the diversity of experience, the diversity of volunteerism, the diversity of education, right? How do we attract a whole new group, a whole new diverse group of individuals to the office? How do we do that? How do we put them in cruisers? How are they going to help us change as an organization in ways we don't even know how to change because we're not them, right? We all know that there's a traditional kind of people that are going to apply. Your police foundation's criminology, we know that law. We all know that, right? But how do we reach out to engineers and scientists? How do we reach out to communities who traditionally want nothing to do with policing? And how do we engage them and get them involved in policing? How do we do that? How do we focus on that diversity, that ability to change? And our commissioner has been really, really great in allowing us the leeway to be able to do that. And what does that actually mean, right? We see the retirement of 600 to 1,000 people as an unprecedented diversity opportunity. It's our opportunity at diversification that we have to grab a hold of it, and we have to make a change. We have to make change happen. We have to make it happen rapidly. We have to get increased applications in at a time where interest in policing is waning, right? Look on the news for something positive that will encourage our youth to want to join a police force. Why is it if I'm being interviewed by a French national television station in Toronto at a technology symposium where we've attracted students involved in engineering sciences, I'm being asked about Ferguson and how it's impacting the OPP's ability to recruit? And is it dissuading individuals from selecting policing as a career opportunity or an option? The answer is yes, but how do we overcome that? How do we change that? Now, what's a community? First and foremost, you have to sit down and identify what a community is. And this is a great thing to do. It's a great exercise to sit down with your people, your recruitment teams, your organization, and ask yourself, what's a community? Is it dotted lines on a map anymore, right? What communities do we police? What communities exist within communities? People with common interests. Is a classroom a community? Are we all a community? Is your organization a community? What kind of online virtual communities exist? And it's really, I got to say, I was so happy that I was getting my opportunity to present at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, right after the keynote. But after hearing the keynote, it's a tough act to follow. Luckily, there was some segues into what we're talking about. And one of the great segues that I see is that definition of community, right? People with common interests and patterns. Do you paint a community with a high crime rate with the same brush? I used to police, or was detachment commander at a small community of just about maybe 10, 15,000 people in one of the communities I was responsible for. And I used to jokingly tell the mayor and council that if they just allowed me to bring a Greyhound bus into the community loaded up, I'd fix crime, right? Because I just got to load it up. It might be a little over capacity, right? I just drive them to Quebec, another border, you know, it work out. They didn't like that. But what I'm trying to say is that we have a very small segment of the population that causes a whole lot of grief, right? A whole lot of grief. And we all know that the overall development of any community is directly linked to its sense of safety and security. I think that's a really safe thing to say. That people will relocate to a community, build families, build homes, build business, build industry if they feel safe and sound in their community, right? And yet what happens is a very small community within the larger picture does something bad. And we paint an entire community with the same brush, right? And that social media gives us opportunity to pinpoint them and to talk about them. But what we have to do is recognize what community we're dealing with. And we've adopted, within Ontario, a mobilization engagement model of community policing. How do we help segments of the community? Where do police have to take a leadership role versus a supportive role within a community? What is a community? And what's the definition of that? And how do we recruit to and for and from that community, right? How do we do that with an organization of our size? So, very simply, social media, digital platforms, all the different ways we communicate, it transcends borders, doesn't it? It transcends all borders, absolutely. I just threw a couple things up there, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Weibo. They transcend, well, I'll talk about Weibo, and I'm getting some weird looks, right? It's a Chinese Twitter, basically. So we'll take a look at that and how we kind of integrated some strategies to try and engage diverse communities, to engage diversity. And how do we do that? Not easy, not easy. I used to think organic impressions was the issues I dealt with my 2-year-old at home with Huggies. That was organic impressions to me, right? So I've certainly changed and had to adapt to my new recruitment role, but luckily I've had a phenomenal team and phenomenal organizational support in terms of being able to do that. So what I'm going to talk to a little bit about today in conjunction with Constable Yu, my partner here, is some strategies that we've used that you may be able to adopt or use or leverage or work in collaboration with us on in terms of how do we engage diversity? How do we recruit people to recruitment websites. How did we grow from 565 followers on Facebook to just cresting 14,000 yesterday? And this is all on OPP Recruitment, not corporate, not the other 23 sites that we have. How do you take people and engage them in a recruitment platform, a recruitment communication strategy? People who don't even want to be police officers, and what's the importance of being connected to them? How do you engage them, keep them interested in what you do, so they become advocates for you within a community that you can't reach, a community that they may see potential in an individual as being a good cop, someone that is not going to walk up to an information booth, they're not going to walk up to an officer in uniform and say, hey, I'm thinking about becoming a police officer, can you help me out with that? They're not going to do that anymore, just not going to happen, right? But how do you engage people from that community, those community leaders, to follow you, a recruitment Facebook page or a recruitment website or a recruitment Twitter feed? How do you do that? It's not easy. How do you change demographics? One of the things I'll talk about is the female demographic. Females are tremendously underrepresented within police forces. We admit that, we know that, it's absolutely true. How do you change that? How do you create followers that reflect a demographic that's 50-50, somewhere you need to be? How do you do that? And how do you engage those people? And that's some of the strategies we'll talk about today. And hopefully it helps out, and hopefully we can all work together and increase the interest in policing. We certainly have a declining interest in policing in Ontario at the university and college level. We have a decreasing rate of applications to police services. And when we work in an environment, we're not willing to compromise the quality of the applicants for quantity. That poses a big threat or problem when you have 1,000 people that can retire. And when you start looking at it, and I was just kind of taking a peek at the numbers, I don't know how many services have 1,000 people, right? So to have 1,000 people that can retire is a tremendous and acute challenge that we're going to try and meet. And we're not only going to meet it, but we're going to meet it and see it as an opportunity for diversification like no other. Inbound marketing. So you read all the Harvard Business Review and all the cool stuff about marketing approaches. And what you got to learn right off the bat, from my perspective anyways, was we were boring. Still are a little bit. I mean, we got to be boring, right? We're policing, conservative, boring. That's just the way we are. But how do we engage people once they're with us? If you don't want to be a cop, why would you follow recruitment? What's the point? And if you've never wanted to be a cop, you're not from a culture or a social background, you don't live in a particular area where policing is promoted as an opportunity, right? If you don't do that, then what is the point of following a recruitment webpage? How do you get connected to people who don't even want to be cops? And what's the point of doing that? Inbound marketing. So when people come to your website, what do they see? Right? Is it traditional, I'm having an information session on this date, the school officer is going to be at this particular location, hey, we're doing testing here and there? Is that what you see? And is that what we think will engage a contemporary student, a person who's an engineering or sciences student, a person from a diverse culture or marginalized background? Are we going to be able to attract them with that historic and arguably antiquated method of conveying a message? Follow us and you know where the next information session is. It's not important enough to post here, right? We're not going to improve you at all. We're not going to develop you or tell you what it is to be a competitive client or candidate. You got to go to the booth, right? There's a booth. There's going to be a person looking sharp. Like, it takes a lot to manage this, and with the hat and the polish and the buttons and the brass, right? It takes a lot for that. You go to that booth, not at all intimidating. No. It'll be the 2 6-foot-tall people, right, that'll be in that back corner looking really stern and serious. And you go talk to them, right? And they're going to tell you what it takes to be a competitive applicant. We got to go beyond that. We had to transcend that. So what do? We did a really simple approach, something that falls within our values, core values as an organization, something that we thought every officer in the OPP, every professional, anyone who's interested in social or personal development, professional development, will want to follow us, and why? Why would you want to follow us? What would make or ingratiate a new community to want to follow us to learn a little bit more about policing? Not only will they get to know where the information sessions are and when we're recruiting and when we're doing testing, but can you learn something? Is it one-stop shopping for professional development? And if you are a professional that's not engaged in policing or security or anything that has to do with us, can you learn something by following us? Can you say, hey, this is pretty cool? They're more than just, it's actually $1 billion business, the OPP. They have 9,000 employees spread out across an entire province. You can do anything. We have 24 paramedics, we have doctors, we have pilots. You can be tactical, you can be frontline. You can do all these different things, but how do we learn, develop, and attract individuals who don't even want to become police officers, but are connected to a community of engineers, of scientists, of marginalized or diverse communities? And they look at us and they say, hey, this is interesting. You might want to follow us. So how do we do it? Content. When you follow us, what are you going to see? Dozens and dozens and dozens of articles with content. From the Globe and Mail to Men's Health to Harvard Business Review, Police Chief, Police One, Huffington Post, TED Talks. We are going to flood you with articles that will not just ingratiate a professional, an individual who's interested in professional development, but we're going to try and teach you, if you follow us, how to be the most competitive individual possible. We're not going to tell you that you got to communicate effectively without showing you TED Talks and showing you articles on how to communicate effectively. If it's raining out, you're going to see us post something from Men's Health or Runner's World about how to run in the rain. Right? When we do our physical fitness testing, we're going to show you from Bodybuilding Magazine or Inc., right? We're going to show you how to develop yourself, how to work better in a team, how to embrace technology, how to communicate more effectively. We're going to show you how to do that. So even if you don't want to be a cop, you can better yourself. And we truly believe that every professional wants to see that. So how do we carry and maintain 14,000 followers on a recruitment site for the OPP? And how do we do that unless we have content that's interesting for individuals? When we do all the little strategies we're going to talk about, all the things we do, when we do all of that, and we get people to the page, if it's not interesting, they're not going to stay there, right? So this is the solution we had without becoming viral or engaging in something sensational, which I would love to do. I wish I could sing to Taylor Swift, can't do it. Didn't think of it, right? Not there yet. But if we can come up with something viral, that's great, but we're not there yet. So how do we get people there? How do we follow our values? How do we contribute to their professional development? How do we link to them, knowing that social media transcends all barriers? That everyone is walking around with a phone. No matter where you are, anywhere in the world, you've got that access to our website, right? And how do we take advantage of this? So these are just some examples of some of the things we've done, strategies that we've used, and some of the things I'm going to talk about were done over a very brief period of time. We built up our content for sure. You know, it took us months and months and months to build up our content. We reinvested resources and dedicated outreach coordinators, people that, like, you know, the kid in the shorts with the flip-flops sitting on the beanbag doing the tweeting and texting, right? We invested in bringing, although Matt, who's probably watching me online, won't appreciate that, we're bringing in people like that within our organization who know how to do that better than us. How often is it that you try and train a cop to do something that they don't know how to do? We train cops to be scientists, we train cops to be computer engineers and technologists and all those different things. I was a collision reconstructionist, they trained me how to do engineering. Right? I did photography, man, scenes of crime officer, they teach you how to be a photographer. Why don't we just bring in engineers, scientists, and photographers, right? Why do we have to always bring in people who are trained police officers? Why don't we diversify the skill set of the people we're engaging in, right? Who are going to change us in ways we never knew how. How do we do that? So, one of the things we have to do in terms of diversity, which I think is the organizational focus of, I don't know, if any police force here can put up their hand with their 50-50 male-female, I'd love to see you, talk to you, and spend some time with you, because we're not there yet, right? We just don't seem to be able to grab onto that demographic, and most of my team, they're female officers, and I got to say, I asked them in a very point blank, why can't we do it? Why can't I increase the amount of females that are applying to policing? And I think it's because all y'all are just trying to be too perfect. They really do. I don't get the female, like guys roll out of bed at 14 years old, they're hair messy and thinking, I should be a cop, I think I'm going to do that, right? I've got females waiting to get PhDs and master's degrees just because they're not ready yet. I got to train harder. I got to get my mile and a half down. I got to do more education and just do a little bit more volunteering to be perfect for the job. And as much as I appreciate that, we need females to apply. So what is it that we do? Have you ever heard of a promoted tweet? It's an opportunity, something you can take. It's a plan or a strategy you can use within Twitter, right, to promote your tweets. But it's not about promoted tweets. A lot of organization companies do that, right, to raise your profile and bring followers to your organization. So this is just an idea of what you can do within promoted tweets. We focus our promoted tweets, if we're going to do it, females in the province of Ontario. That's all we want it sent out to. So the promoted tweets that we send are geared towards attracting a female demographic in the province of Ontario, and we send it out to them, and all the impressions go out, and we hope that a good click-through rate comes through, and we increase the amount of followers we have. If we can increase the amount of female followers we have and increase the demographics overall, we hope that that, of course, eventually will result in an increased amount of female applicants. The best thing to do. So right before we came here, right, we did a test for you, just for you guys, to see where we're at, right? So in a 10-day, from April 12th to April 22nd, we did promoted tweets to females in Ontario. We went from 7,752 followers on Facebook to 8,594, went from a 43% follower female rate to 47%. In 10 days, we increased that by 4. Now take 9,000, carve it in half, 50-50, 4,500 female followers on Twitter, right? If you increase the professional development content of your page, and you're there, and you can keep them engaged as they strive for perfection, right? They'll hopefully apply to you, or they'll say, this is pretty cool, engage people within their community, their diverse communities, their diverse education platforms or wherever they're going, and hopefully they apply to us. And how do we sustain that, increase that, and improve that? Did the same thing, boosted our profile on Facebook, engaged only females, only in Ontario, with the goal of improving diversity. The goal, obviously, of getting to that 50-50. Now, Facebook's worked well for us, and I love Facebook. It's awesome. It's a great platform. You can put those articles on. You can store historic content. You go onto our webpage right now, or our Facebook profile for UOPP Uniform Recruitment, and you'll see the 200 articles we posted as archive content, right? So you can go in and actually study, work your way through there, and be more competitive. What does that mean? When we did this, look at that female followership. And that was over a 10-day period. We went from 12,000, we crested 14,100, I think, yesterday. We have a 59% female followers now. Drastic contrast when we were at 45% in January, right? So what we did was we took, and this is all done over about a 7-month period, and I'll go through some statistics a little bit later in terms of metrics and how does that transcend into actual applications and where we're at with all that, because it's all about analytics, isn't it? It's all about metrics. And how does that work, and where are we at with all that? But the goal here, I think, over a short period of time, when we have such an acute challenge of recruiting, such an opportunity to diversify our workforce, how do we do it in about 7 months? How did that happen? We took about 4 or 5 months to increase our content, to make our inbound marketing approach a little bit more appealing to people who are going to follow us. We did that before we engage in this strategy, and I'll show you the strategy we engage in. It's all about timing. We went from the middle of January to the end of February to try and increase these numbers. And why did we do that? Right before graduation, right? Right in the middle of classes at the Ontario Police College. Why do we strategically do that at a time of year when internet usage is at its highest, because it's damn cold up there still, right? That's what people do. So we did it at a specific time, and I'll talk about that strategy later on. So what did boosted profile do on Facebook? You can see the numbers. You certainly see that it's drawn in 18 to 24 and 25 to 34, right in that key zone. We certainly did not alter the 18 to 35 as kind of the age group that we went with our boosted profiles, but it changed that demographic completely. It changed the amount of followers completely. And when you have 60% of 14,000 followers that are female, you have to hope that by default, that will raise that number of applicant or that demographic. Strategic campaign, LinkedIn. Simultaneous to doing these things, we engaged LinkedIn. We did a strategic campaign with LinkedIn. And with LinkedIn, when you do a campaign, you want to boost your profile or send those impressions out to a vast array of people, you can actually be very specific about what you're looking for. Now, we all know, and this is just another strategy that we're using, just one of them, where we talk about we are more and more engaged with people who suffer from mental health issues. You see it all over the news, right? So the idea of bringing in trained police officers and training them how to deal with people who suffer from mental health issues and concerns is something of paramount importance to policing. But why not bring in people with a diverse skill set? Different people, change people, people with different educational backgrounds, people who are community advocates already, who already have training and are able to deal with them effectively, or proven training and ability to deal with people who are engaged in mental health issues. So this is a strategy we utilized on LinkedIn to see where we would get. So we did our campaign and we focused on people with a medical background, people with research backgrounds, people with health and social services backgrounds. We obviously focused on high tech, because we want people that are coming here and are going to help us grow, build, and change an organization for the next 30 years. We're recruiting people for the next 30 years. We're on the front line. As a constable, you're dealing with high tech every day in everything that you do, right? It's not just the people in the corner offices sitting on the beanbags that are going to deal with it. We also focused on volunteerism, not just professionals, not people engaged in necessarily careers or whatnot, but they volunteer. They've got proven ability to mobilize and engage the community. That's what we're looking for. So here's the numbers. Within the first 30 days, which is during the month of February, simultaneous to our focus on diversity, where we use Facebook and Twitter, simultaneous to all these different things in 30 days, LinkedIn sent 110,867 impressions out to people who met the criteria that we selected. We had a click-through rate of 0.86%. I was actually upset. If you ask my staff, I'm like, it's not even 1%. That sucks. That's horrible. So we sat down with LinkedIn. I didn't have a chance to phone LinkedIn. They phoned us and said, don't change anything. Your click-through rate is 11% the industry average. And by 11%, we mean recruitment on LinkedIn. Not police recruitment. You're competing against Apple, IBM, everyone on LinkedIn. Why are you 11%? 11% the volume of everyone else. Don't change it. Why would you do it? Just leave it the way it is. It's working. Look at the change. Obviously, blue is just our organic impressions, right? The people that would have seen us anyways or followed us anyways. Yellow is the results of the campaign. And if you look at where we've had and suffered the most tremendous change, obviously, hospital and healthcare, health, wellness, and fitness, mental health care, healthcare services, community and social services. That's a demographic, a group of diverse people in terms of what they bring to the table in terms of their skill set that we weren't reaching before. Had we not have done this, we would never reach those people. They wouldn't be interested in us. They wouldn't be applying. And what made us 11 times the industry average? Content. That's what made us 11 times the industry average. Sit down with LinkedIn and we said, we can't believe that you had someone going on every 1, 2, or 3 days and changing the content on your LinkedIn page. People don't want to see the same thing. Hi, looking to hire people, apply. They're not going to be interested. They're not going to be engaged. But if you change your content every other day and engage new people so that eventually they say, hey, they're changing, they're evolving, it's different, they're interested, they really want me, and you change that content, they're going to click through and follow you. By default, if they follow your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, and they can learn that, hey, it's more than just about policing. It's more than just the sharp-looking dude in the corner that's going to sit at the booth and tell me about policing. It's about professional development. They're a big core organization that cares, right? They care, and clearly they want to implement and sustain and enhance a mental health strategy. That's why we're interested in you. That's why we want you to apply. We want you to help us grow, build, and change. So before I pass it over to Gloria, I'm just going to talk about humanizing the job. Our focus as an organization, our focus within recruitment has always been about humanizing the job. Value our people. It's about our people. We can show every one of us people rappelling from helicopters, people jumping out of planes, halo jumping into communities. We can show people hanging upside down from buildings, tactical, cool stuff all over. You know how many people get onto our TRUE teams, the Tactics and Rescue Unit? Out of the 6,300s, about 60, max. The odds of you getting there are astronomical. You want to be a pilot? Good luck. You want to be canine? You want to be commissioner off the bat? Wish you luck. It's going to happen, sure. But 75 to 85% of our people are staying constables for the rest of their career. We need to keep them engaged. We need to keep them interested. And we need to show that human side of what we do, because that's what's going to engage individuals who aren't interested in policing. If you're in the military or police foundations or criminology major or you're into law and you've done all those things, you know what we're all about. You think it's cool that we carry C8s and do all this stuff and lights and sirens. You think that's neat. But the individuals we're looking at recruiting, if you're truly interested in the diversification of your workforce, if that's what you really, really want, well, that might not engage them. It might not get their motor turning, right? It might not get them involved with you or interested in you. You know what they like? Humans. The fact that we're people too, right? The fact that we care, that we're mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, right? I mean, how many people know that we call each other's brothers and sisters? Right? That we're all one big family. No matter where you go, you've got family and friends. We're all one big community. Do they know how much we actually care about them, or do they just see the sensational negative, right? And that is what Gloria is going to come talk about, is some of the steps we've taken to try and humanize what it is to be a provincial police officer. Gloria?
Good. Thank you, Inspector. So just to introduce myself, my name's Gloria Yu. I'm a constable with the OPP, and I'm the junior recruiter in southwestern Ontario. So I feel so fortunate to be a part of this team. I truly believe that we have one of the most important jobs in the OPP, and that's hiring the future of police officers. And like Inspector MacKillop said, most people, right, if they're paying attention to the news, watch TV, read stories, whatever it is, most people know what a police officer is. But in order for them to know what the OPP is looking for specifically as a competitive candidate, what makes you competitive? Competitive is such a general term, right? And for those who did not consider policing right off the bat as a career option, perhaps they did not go to police foundations or criminology. They don't have related police education, employment, community service, or training. How do we engage those people? How do we educate them and motivate them to consider policing as a career option, right? To reach out, do the research, and actually meet recruiters, either in person or virtually. So this is my 9th year in the OPP, and I started out as a general duties officer in Essex County, Ontario. I came into the Uniform Recruitment Unit in 2014, and right off the bat, the inspector trusted me to monitor our Facebook and Twitter accounts. So I'm the recruiter that mans our @OPP hire, and hopefully after today everybody's going to be following us. And at that time, we were tweeting out information, getting people to follow our website, right? www.opp.ca/careers. We were putting out monthly live chats with themes, right? So a day in the life of an OPP recruit, what does it mean to be fit for duty, fit for life? How do you engage in continuous learning and the importance of doing that as a police officer, right? With the ever-changing technology and environment and equipment and case law and all that. But this humanizing part is so important because we were doing presentations in person in every region of the province. But with so many recruiters, you can only reach out so many people, right, one-on-one in the room of a presentation. Like today, right, there's about 150 of us. In person, that contact. If we do it virtually, it's time effective, it's cost effective, and you're developing this global unprecedented access. People who say they don't have the time because they're in school, in class, or they're working, right, or they do shift work, or they don't have the opportunity to come to an information session in person because of childcare or limited transportation or cost. And they don't want to take the time off work because they want to pay off their student loans and their mortgages and whatnot, right? So what we did is we went to them. We engaged them virtually in order to tell them what policing is all about, what the profession's all about, what our retirement rates are coming up. We wanted to provide them global unprecedented access one-on-one with recruiters in a virtual environment. We also wanted to tell them this is what the OPP has to offer as an employer and what are the realistic expectations for you to get hired as a competitive candidate are. What can you do as an applicant to make yourself the most competitive and the most suitable so that when you submit an application, it's going to increase your chances of getting hired as a police constable with the OPP. So the first thing that we did was reaching out to our global base, right? What do our followers care about? What are the day-to-day news that they follow? So we decided to check out all the daily hashtags of the day, right? Capitalize on all the global events of the day. For example, Bell Let's Talk. This is our 3rd year engaging with Bell Let's Talk, which for those who don't know what it is, right? Bell Canada donated 5 cents for every tweet that had the hashtag Bell Let's Talk. And so the OPP on January 27th this year tweeted all day. And we not only engaged with everybody universally around the globe that were tweeting about Bell Let's Talk and the importance of mental health awareness, right? Ending the stigma of mental health and mental illness in the community, but we transferred it into what does mental health, wellness, and fitness mean to a police applicant and for the future of policing. So we were engaged on the live chat throughout the day. Then we followed it with a live chat of our own with the topic fitness and wellness using exercise to combat stress. Everybody used the hashtag #BellLet'sTalk, and this is what we did. We used consistent messaging, like Inspector MacKillop says. We used content from magazines, right? Women's Health, Men's Health. In this case right here, at Healthline, exercise is a stress relief, right? Flooding them with career development and professional development on how they can improve to make themselves a more competitive candidate. Then we followed it up with a two-hour live chat, one-on-one with OPP recruiters, so someone like myself, and engaging them and educating them and motivating them with the realistic expectations. In this case, OPP recruits run 10 kilometers on the first day at the OPP Academy. Are you ready for any call, anytime, anywhere? Right. The feedback, right here. I love this one from Matthew Marino. At OPP Hire, always great, informative, and friendly. All the applicants really appreciate that you do this for us. Perfect, thank you. It was very cool to follow all the tweets as they were pouring in. And the top one, happy to see at OPP Hire taking hashtag #BellLet'sTalk and showing our police to take it very, very seriously, hoping that one day that he'll be a part of this movement. So what were the results? I mean, these are all numbers, right? You guys know about tweets and likes and what the engagement rate was. It was very, very high in this case. And the overall impressions that we had, right? Over 138,000. But the ripple effect from that point, we know that global unprecedented access. Anybody can go onto our Twitter site and read all the tweets and learn what it takes to be an OPP candidate. So this is a strategy that we used, and it's all about timing. It's all about following the daily events of the day, capitalizing on global events, educating, engaging, and teaching our candidates, potential candidates, how to make yourself a competitive candidate. We call it the trifecta. And the trifecta consists of doing a virtual ride-along on Twitter and then sharing it on Instagram and Facebook, hosting a live stream mentoring panel with officers that represent diverse backgrounds, right? Education, volunteering, employment, and so forth, to let people see when they're watching that, you know what, perhaps I did not consider policing as a career option, but if that individual can do it, he can do it, she can do it, perhaps I can do it too. And it gets the conversation going in their mind. After that, the last thing we do is a live stream constable information session with an OPP recruiter. So they're hearing the information from the horse's mouth. They're hearing what you need to do to make yourself a competitive candidate for hire with the Ontario Provincial Police. So, the virtual ride-along, what I did is I went out back to my frontline detachment in Essex County. I did a night shift with one of my platoon members, and I tweeted everything that we did, every vehicle stop, every call, right? What I did to prepare, to kit up when we arrived at detachment. What OPP officers do, 12-hour shifts, what it's like to actually log on with the comm center and so forth. So for people who have never spoken to a police officer before, don't have friends or family that are police officers, how do they actually know what it's like to actually be on the job and do frontline duties? We did a soft launch in January, right before the #BellLet'sTalk, right? This was a strategic plan to get people engaged to follow us on Twitter and know that we're offering all these live stream and virtual experiences. On January 9th, we did the soft launch in Leamington OPP detachment, one of the 160 detachments across Ontario. And then we did the targeted approach, which was on February 3rd, same thing in Essex County, but it was in Lakeshore OPP detachment this time. And same thing, we went out, we stopped vehicles, we did radar, we walked the beat, we went to the Lakeshore Arena and ended up playing a hockey game in the hallway with these potential OPP recruits. The feedback, it's all about community, right? The media loved it. My FM News, okay, this is just too cool. A hashtag virtual ride along with a frontline OPP officer via live tweeting tonight, awesome, right? And then the follow-up. Dan Pike said, Constable you and Vela, thank you so much for the virtual ride along tonight, very enjoyable. Kevin Roy, those who haven't had the opportunity to do a ride along yet, it is great for them. And the results? Once again, just numbers, right? but the virtual connections that we developed with our followers, right? They lived and breathed an 8-hour shift with an OPP officer virtually, right? And lived vicariously through all the calls and vehicle stops that we did, so they had a good idea what to expect if they were in an OPP cruiser on the front line. The second part of the trifecta. So the first one was the virtual ride-along. The second one is the Breaking Barriers Mentoring Panel. So we took a number of diverse OPP officers who spoke in multiple languages, right? Visible minorities from different cultural, educational, employment, community backgrounds, and we put them on the panel so that they were mentoring, right, over Twitter, over Periscope, and also we tweeted it out on Instagram and Facebook. 476 live viewers, 78 replay viewers. Now, for those who don't know about Periscope, things don't last, right? They're on there for 20 hours and then they're gone. But what we did is we videotaped it and then we posted it on our OPP Corporate Communications YouTube. So those who couldn't watch live for work, volunteering, school, right? They're playing sports, whatever, they couldn't make it, they could watch it. And they can see these different OPP officers from diverse backgrounds telling their struggles, explaining, yes, when I applied, my family wasn't the most supportive, but after, when I explained to them all the great opportunities, right, the endless opportunities that the OPP has to offer across the province, laterally and vertically, I considered policing as a career option, and this is now I know what I need to do to make myself competitive. The feedback, once again, thank you for the Breaking Barriers and video live stream. Again, your organization impressing with today's technology and information. Tony says, very informative. Thanks to the panel and host. This is just motivates me to pursue my dream. And Bryan Teal, great informational video. Always nice hearing other people's struggles and success stories, right? So it's humanizing the OPP officers. We're not just cookie cutter recruits. We do not hire cookie cutter people. We hire people from all walks of life. We consider the most well-rounded competitive candidates. We want those people hitting the ground running and pounding the radio when it comes to calls. The last part of the trifecta, FaceTime with an OPP recruiter, right? Learning what the realistic expectations are when you submit an application, what I'm looking for in your resume and cover letter. How do you demonstrate your work ethic, your continuous learning? How do you demonstrate your fit, right? Through registration forms and race times and fitness logs and whatnot. So Commissioner Hawks was happy to come. We were so honored to have him come and open our live stream constable information session. It was viewed by over 1,200 people, right? So in the past, where we were engaging 25, 30 people in a room, in a boardroom for a constable information session for 2 hours, over Periscope and Twitter and social media, we engaged 1,200 viewers and 128 replays. Just going to pass the time over to Inspector MacKillop to explain the Twitter analytics. If you have any questions later on, feel free to let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Gloria. So just to kind of sum it all up, I've got about another 5-10 minutes before I get the hook pulled off the stage, or this thing pops. I'm not sure what's going to happen first, but from Twitter analytics, this is over a 41-day period, and we just kind of wanted to show it up there. It might be hard to see, but the intent of this is to show you that is just OPP recruitment. It's just a recruitment site. So the fact to have 1.5 million impressions is half decent. And if you look at the spikes in terms of blue being organic, blue being without any promotion whatsoever, that's the people that are following us. Yellow is the enhancements we've done on Twitter with the promoted tweets, and the changes that can have in your organization, because that's really the intent of our presentation today, is to just kind of develop some strategies that we can use collaboratively or collectively to try and enhance the interest in policing and the amount of followers you might have within your recruitment webpage or your HR kind of endeavors. So you can actually see on January 9th at the far left of the screen is the soft lunch virtual ride along. Now that is, and Gloria sold herself short here, unprecedented global access from anyone in the world who wants to learn more about the policing experience, right? If you are a teacher teaching English as a second language in South Korea, you can actually participate in a ride-along, ask live questions, ask us to take pictures of whatever it is you want to see, because in 2 years you're going to come back and you want to apply and you want to be competitive. we're going to give that to you. We're going to give you that opportunity. And what Gloria is doing is tweeting, I know I'm going to get a claim in for carpal tunnel or something, but she's tweeting furiously all the questions back and forth. And that's the one thing that we really want to emphasize is it's direct access, unprecedented from anywhere in the world with the anonymity of the computer. So if you're too shy to approach an officer, you can do it this way. So on January 9th on the far left, you can actually see that we did a soft launch. On January 27th, the highest peak is actually when we supported Bell Let's Talk from a mental health perspective, which of course shows that the commitment we have to that as an organization. On February 3rd, the 10th, and the 17th, strategically, we did what we dubbed the trifecta, with the virtual ride-along on the 3rd, the Breaking Barriers session on the 10th, as well as the live stream information session on the 17th. And if you look at how that worked and then how it worked if you combine it with a strategy using Twitter, Facebook, or the other opportunities you have to market yourselves within those streams, those digital platforms, if you look at how that was enhanced on February 9th, the day that we started using promoted tweets, how did that enhance the other opportunities and things that we did? Take that over a 1-month period, you got some pretty decent numbers. This is just another thing that we've done to try and engage diverse communities. We understand and recognize that if you look up Statistics Canada within Ontario, that the Asian population is growing immensely. We also recognize that policing is not a traditional occupation within many members of that community. It's not seen as an opportunity for them. They don't kind of see it as something that they would seek out for and want to be a part of. We understand that they have, generally speaking, this is being kind of broad spectrum across the Asians in general, but generally they're professional, career-focused individuals. That's where their kind of education, volunteerism, community support tends to lead them to. So what do? Well, we start to look and say, what kind of a social media platform do they engage in? What community? Do they use Twitter? Look, think about the diverse communities, and we define community, what that actually means. Do they use Twitter? Do they use Facebook? Do they use Instagram? Well, they use Weibo. Weibo is the Chinese version of Twitter, right? And how do they engage with that? How do we kind of say, hey, we're linked in to you to a certain extent? And if they do access us via social media, what's the content on your website to attract someone who's professionally minded? Well, we've addressed that by trying to get content that really attracts everyone. So here we are on Weibo. I don't know what it says. We had to bring people in for that, right? And the fact that we had to look within our organization hard to try and find someone who can actually type this stuff in and read it to make sure it's okay, speaks to why we need to diversify our organization, right? We should. Why am I looking so hard to find someone who speaks Mandarin or Cantonese or can read it and write it, right? That speaks volumes, the fact that we need this. So if you can read this, what it says is we don't monitor 24 hours a day. Please follow us on Facebook and Twitter, right? And it brings you to the improved content. But it's the footprint. It's that footprint within that diverse community that's there and so important to us, right? So this is just to sum it all up. Where were we at? What do we do? Some metrics, some little numbers out there to kind of throw at you. In 2012, we launched Recruitment Twitter, Facebook pages. 2014, we had a whopping 1,600 people, and this is just uniform recruitment, not the OPP corporate page or the other pages that we do. In 2014, we had 1,600 Twitter followers and 569 people on Facebook. That's awesome, isn't it? Right? And in 2014, in the middle of the year, Gloria comes into the picture and she starts using, pictures and live chats. We start to engage people. We start to take pictures. We improve the content a little bit. A year later, in September, we bring in and reinvest in technology. We bring in a virtual outreach coordinator, a civilian who's well-versed in all that kind of stuff. We launched an Instagram page after we went to a youth leadership conference and realized they all use Instagram if they're under the age of 20. We started getting engaged with them. We now have 3,000 to 4,000 people following us on that. We enhance our content. At that particular moment, we recognized that people aren't going to want to follow us if they don't want to be cops. So we enhanced our content. At that particular point in September of 2015, a few months ago, we had 3,000 people following us on Twitter, 5,000 people following us on Facebook. On April, after we did these strategies and incorporated these into the different things that we do, and this is in addition to all the traditional approaches that we have, sitting at the booths, going to the schools, and doing all that kind of stuff. We're now at 9,000 followers on Twitter, 14,000 followers on Facebook. We integrated the strategic campaign, and what we're probably most proud of is the change in demographic of our female followers. From January till now, January till like last week, we went from 35% followers female on Twitter to 45%. we went from 35 to 47, and Facebook went from 45 to a whopping 59%. And that's just using the small strategies, some of the strategy we've kind of shown to you today, in terms of how you can actually diversify the followers that you have by leveraging social media, right? And how do you bring people into the fold, into the organization, who bring that diverse skill set in a way that will help you change, grow, and build as an organization, not just today, but for the next 30 years. So again, thanks so much for having us down. I really appreciate it. Tough act to follow. Next time I'd let one more speaker in between. That'd be awesome. But thanks everyone. Appreciate having out. We're going to be around for the rest of the day if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.